Hi, you are watching and listening to the Heidi Show podcast, a place where you'll hear compelling stories from female leaders, creators, and innovators. And today you're going to hear from a lot of those female leaders, creators, and innovators. Because on today's episode, I'm talking to the instructors as well as the attendees of Annette Joseph's styling workshop that went on here at La Fortezza here in Italy. It is so cool to hear their stories. First of all, these instructors are incredible. They have incredible backgrounds. Plus, they're going to give you tips that you can use in your everyday life. So everything from Pinterest to floral arranging and even just taking a really good Instagram picture of your dinner. Yeah, you're going to hear all of that. Plus, you're going to hear from the attendees on what motivated them to come and what they learned from it. I think that you're going to be inspired by what they learned. So I can't wait for you to hear from them. And all of their information, the links and websites and all that stuff, that is all in our show notes. So you can find more about them there. And if you're watching on YouTube, then you're probably going, yeah, but what is going on behind you, Heidi? So I am actually doing the interview here at the workshop place at La Fortezza, where it's gorgeous inside, the stone walls, and then they've got a huge shelf with all the props that they use for styling, plus a nice long table. They've got some florals in here that they use for the floral arranging. It's just a really great space, and an espresso machine, because there's an espresso machine everywhere you look here. Well, I'm so excited to talk to you, Maren. This is our first instructor that I'm interviewing today.
Hi.
And Maren made the most amazing appetizer the other night. It was so delicious. I'm like dreaming about it.
I'll send you the recipe.
Okay, awesome. So, Maren, I want you to tell, first of all, this is Maren Ellingbo.
Hi, happy to be here.
And I want you to tell me a little bit of your background. So, let's start with being the editor at the Food and Wine magazine, and then go from there. Share a little bit about your background, what led you here.
Sure. So, originally I worked in restaurants all through college, and then ended up getting a job at Food and Wine on the editorial side in 2011. And I was there for almost 5 years, and it really exposed me to the world of magazines and media and just kind of everything that went into running a magazine. And it was also where I attended several photo shoots and helped out, and kind of learned that being a food stylist was a job, because I didn't really realize that that existed previously. So I just remember seeing that on set, and I was like, that's what I want to be doing. 'Cause, you're working with food, but it's not quite the same as being in a restaurant, and obviously you're making things look beautiful. That's your job. Mm-hmm. So when I moved to California in 2015, it was kind of with the goal to pursue that career. So I was lucky, and I had some good contacts in media, and I started working with Sunset Magazine on a number of food videos. It was good timing. They were just kind of starting to launch some more video content. Mm-hmm. So I developed a bunch of recipes and then styled them on camera. And at the same time, I was also assisting several local food stylists, which of course also taught me a ton. And just gave me a lot of really good experience. And last year, I was lucky enough to attend one of Annette's workshops that was focusing on food styling. And I feel like that just really gave me the confidence to kind of take things to the next level. And she's, such a great teacher. So I also learned a lot from her. So, over the last year, I've kind of been trying to just expand my client list, and I also do some work on events and with recipe development and testing and things like that. So
that's great.
So it's been really fun.
So what did you bring to the workshop as it's part of your curriculum to teach the attendees?
So I focused on food styling. The three of us kind of put together a curriculum talking about the classic rules of photography And then I dove a little deeper into how that applies to styling something on camera, and a bit into what the difference is between like, okay, here's how you could style something if you're serving it for a dinner party versus if you're actually on set, you know, just in terms of keeping things looking fresh. And like, I mean, most of the work I've done is editorial, so there's not a lot of like tricks, like you're not, you know, painting things with motor oil or anything like that. But there are still some techniques for making things look beautiful on camera that you wouldn't need to apply in you know, real life. So that was kind of my focus, and we did some still lives. Sorry. And we also did a bit of prepared food styling with the crostini that you mentioned.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to spring this last question on you. Okay. Sorry, Mark. I did not tell her about this. But, you know, so many people, obviously there's a big joke about like Instagram and how you Instagram all your food, you know, and your meals. So is there like one tip for like the everyday person if how they could make their food on Instagram look a little bit better? Just a little tip.
I mean, I would say like only shoot in natural light. That's really the one biggest thing you can do for your food. If you're shooting at night or in artificial light, usually it just is not going to look very appetizing. So yeah, find the best like natural light source you can and
say,
shoot it there.
Sit me outside on the patio.
Exactly.
Okay? I don't want to be inside.
Yeah.
I got some Instagram photos to take.
Yes.
Thank you so much for jumping on here on the podcast with me. I really appreciate it. So will you share kind of what you do right now and your background?
Yeah, totally. So I own a business called The Stemmery. We're a subscription flower delivery company in Seattle. Started it about 2.5 years ago after just falling in love with floral design and really wanting to go do that full time, but I wasn't really drawn to the wedding and event industry as much, and I was like, how can I do this in a way that lets me really enjoy like working with flowers on a regular basis, but that could also be scalable and that I could build a team with and all that sort of thing, and also ideally not dedicate all my summer weekends to
to events and stuff.
Yeah.
So for people that may not understand a little bit, so the subscription, so people pay like monthly fee, and then you come and you deliver their flowers like each week or every other week, or
so we offer a few different options. We do weekly, every other week, and once a month, and we have 3 different size options, and we just always source local seasonal flowers, so it's a different option each time. It's always a surprise, but it's just like that's what we focus on, is just the local seasonal flowers.
I mean, it seems like a dream to be able just to get to receive flowers on a regular basis. I love your idea. I know we've already talked a little bit about it, but I love your business idea, and I think it's wonderful. So what exactly have you taught here this weekend?
Yeah, so we did a few different projects. The one that we focused mostly on was doing like floral centerpieces and how to use those when you're styling a table and that sort of thing. So it could kind of like, we could learn these different design components, and floral being one of them, how to pull it all together. Yesterday we also did flower crowns and table runners. And so those are like the main things we focus on, things that you would use when you're styling something.
Yeah, and the flower crowns are so cute. I'll take some pictures and we'll put them here. So if you're listening on the podcast, then if you go to YouTube, then you can see some pictures because I'll put it within the video. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to spring something on you. I hope you don't mind. But just as a tip for everyone that's listening, is there like one simple thing that someone could do, like even if they just pick up like a bouquet of flowers from the grocery store or something like that, is there something simple that they can do to make it even better that doesn't look like, oh, of course, you just bought this from the grocery store?
I would say that my one tip when you're arranging flowers to make it look like more intentional is to cut all your stems at different lengths. So don't just like do a quick chop over the bottom with all your flowers at the same height. Like really stagger them as you're cutting them and place them in a vase, and it just looks like you actually did something purposeful.
That's perfect. I love it. So tell me a little bit more of your background. Like, what led you here to be an instructor?
So I actually studied industrial design and photography. Eventually I became a textile designer, but my passion was always in sharing really cool stuff. So that's how I became a blogger. And then just through the evolution of blogging and content creation, I really loved styling and creating my own imagery and content. And then it rolled into doing it for brands and more for myself and all that. So I attended last year, and then this year I was lucky enough to be invited.
That's great, and you've done a great job. So, but let's go back though to the Pinterest thing, because that actually came before your blog, right?
It did, yeah.
You were one of the OG
Yes.
Pinterest people.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I like to joke I wasn't the first person on Pinterest. I was the second person because I was invited by a blogger named Joy Cho. She was really early on joining the platform, and she invited me because I was working for her. And I'm just so grateful and lucky to have been given that opportunity.
I know. And that is what led to the blog, because you had, how many, 3.9 million followers? Is that?
Right now I think it's like 3.8 million.
Okay.
Something like that.
All right. Not too shabby.
No, it's not bad.
Too shabby. So tell us what you did here at the workshop.
So while I was here, I shared a lot of interior design styling tips. We also did a really cool demonstration about like setting the table with entertaining tips, that kind of thing. Even just talking about like the layers of how I make a table feel welcoming and I like cozy or casual or any type of vibe like that.
Yeah. You shared a really good tip too about the napkins, which I loved. And we'll show pictures too. So if you're listening to the podcast, you got to check out the YouTube video because we show some pictures of that as well. But it's looked great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So because you're the Pinterest OG, second, whatever, who's counting? What is a really good tip that you have for people to be able to utilize Pinterest for their business and to help grow it?
So when it comes to Pinterest, I always say think of it as visual search. So it's really, people are using it to find ideas and inspiration that they're going to save and revisit later. So make sure that when you pin things, there's keywords. So always have a description, start using their hashtags, and that will help people find your content more easily.
And how do you figure out the best keywords for this? This is another question that I just sprung on her.
So I would suggest, type in one keyword that you can automatically think of. So for me, I always talk about small spaces, and then you'll see other keywords pop up after you search for it. And those are things that other people are searching for in relationship to that first keyword.
So easy, so simple.
They make it easy for you.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. She was like, wait, you want me to do what? Yes, I want you to be on the podcast and I'm going to video you.
That's right.
So thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it as well.
Kim, I wanted to ask you, what motivated you to come to this workshop this weekend?
So in I would say for 2019, my New Year's resolution after reading a great book of The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes was to start saying yes to more things. And when Joanna, who I knew in real life, who shared an office building with me, started advertising this course, she told me that it was something that I should look into, and I started thinking about it, and I just said yes. So it was really that simple.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I did it. There's just something to be said about starting to say yes to things, like what Shonda was recommending, and how when we start saying yes to things, more opportunities arise in our daily lives. And so I'm really glad that I did it.
Wow. What do you feel like you've learned from this particular experience? Because it sounds like you've learned a lot just from even this past year, the Year of Yes. But what did you learn this weekend?
I learned that you can really slow down and start to really make everyday life more beautiful. Like whether it be creating a tablescape so that you can have a more enjoyable meal for you and your guests, whether it's bringing flowers into your daily life and how to design them and be creative so that you have something beautiful to look at when you're immersed in your day-to-day life, like work, and about just, you know, really disconnecting from commercialism. We were talking today earlier amongst the group that being in Italy, you're not seeing your daily grocery stores and your daily strip malls and your daily gas stations. You're really just looking at nature and looking at a completely different side of the world. And that has been also really nice, just to kind of really disconnect, but also bring in beauty and ways to make your own, like slow down and make your own life more beautiful. And I've really appreciated that.
That's great, and we all need a little bit more of that. So Kim, share with us what motivated you to come this weekend.
Well, you know, I was looking for a vacation, but as I get older, I find for my vacations, I don't want to just do nothing. I really want to use it as a chance to recharge, learn something, do something different, whether it be volunteering. I've done that before. But when I saw this opportunity, I loved the opportunity. I liked the opportunity to be able to immerse myself in learning more about flowers and styling and just, you know, different things that I work in computers, so I don't really get to spend a lot of time thinking about food and styling and interior design. It's more focused on computers, so it was just a good opportunity for me to get in touch with that side of myself more, which I really liked.
And do you feel like you did? I mean, what did you learn?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was great. I think just really inspiring, and I think, you know, I always try and look for the beauty in things every day, but I think just being here, and I think combined with being in Italy, and just that lifestyle, I think, you know, I think it'll definitely inspire me when I get home to slow things down, take a little bit more time, and, you know, pay a little bit more attention to things. And I think I'll carry through. And I think just some of the things that I learned, from, you know, practical, you know, I tend to do a lot of floral stuff at home, but a lot of the stuff that I learned here from Sarah, I think was really helpful. And just, you know, from Marin and the styling on the food, and then from Joanna on the styling on the interior, and just some of the things on social, and just how do I use my camera and Instagram, and, you know, all of that. It's not my strong point. I'm very much a novice. So I was really excited, and I feel like a lot of that stuff I'll definitely take with me.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm sorry you have to go back to computers.
I know. I wish I could live in this world all the time, but hopefully I'll be able to combine the two somehow. So
perfect. Yeah. And the first question, obviously, I've been asking everyone is, what was your motivation for coming here?
Well, I have a really hard time taking a break from work, and it felt like coming here was sort of an extension of work, but at the same time a vacation. So it was just the right mix of the two for me.
Yeah. And tell people what you do for work so they'll understand.
Sure. I'm a brand strategist and a creative director.
Okay. So you kind of do a little bit of this stuff anyways, just on a day-to-day basis.
I do, yes. Okay. I'm on photo shoots and video shoots, and at times styling, and have been a stylist in the past.
Great.
Yeah.
So what did you learn?
It was a great refresher for a lot of things. We got to practice making flower crowns and going over the fundamentals of creating boutiques and other arrangements. And then, so much about social media from Joanna, who's an expert.
What is one of the things that you feel like you're going to implement immediately that you learned from her about social media?
She introduced me to a lot of tools that are so smart that I didn't know existed, and they're going to be really helpful.
Good. Yeah. That's great. Awesome. Was there anything else that you feel like it's going to be a shift in your perspective when you get home that you learned during this time?
I think it's just remembering to slow down and make your space special. It's something that we in the industry do for our clients, but it's important to do for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's been a moment to be a little selfish and take time.
That is a great reminder. I didn't even think of it like that. Just how like a personal trainer, they're at the gym and they're helping other people, but yet it's tough because it's like the last thing I want to do is be at the gym if I'm helping people at the gym all the time. But I'm sure it's the same thing for someone like you that are helping other people style things and make things pretty. Yeah. To be reminded to do that for yourself. So, Great. I really hope you got something from this episode. I felt like each instructor had something to offer you, and then the attendees each had a different why and what they learned. So my intention was that I hope that you could feel inspired to add beauty to your life, to say yes more, and to treat your home or yourself as well as you do other people. Next week, we're going to have a man on the podcast. I know. Chef Philip Meeker is going to be with us. He was a chef during our time in Italy. He studied in France. He worked at a Michelin star restaurant. And he also was a chef at Kimball House in Atlanta when it was named the South's best restaurant. His wife, though, got really sick, and that totally changed his perspective. And so we're going to hear from him next week. So don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, both on the podcast platforms and on YouTube.